Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. We are back after a fairly lengthy hiatus.
I'd say
right,
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
It's been since before Christmas since we've done the show.
That's right. So,
Right
yeah,
before Christmas.
Yeah.
So we're back at it. At the board meeting last night, we had a good long meeting. It was on the longer side of things, and we started out with an update about our sewer force main issue. We have completed our assessment of the main. The main break has been located and repaired. The rest of the line has been inspected. A few other unknown issues in the line have been identified and repaired. And we are now in the process of getting South Beach Street repaved, reconstructed really, and the sidewalks reconstructed. And the board also last night voted to go with this option of, where we can, widening South Beach Street a little bit, no more than 1 to 2 feet, and widening one or the other of the sidewalks. Both sidewalks will remain by about the same, but we can't do that along the whole thing, and we're talking C Street to Broad. But it will hopefully be a little bit wider, both for pedestrians and vehicles.
You know, being away and hearing about the news, and constantly hearing about the news for so long, it seemed to take so long to get it finally fixed. What are the chances that this is just the beginning of a lot of little problems that we can expect?
We are in the process of a comprehensive assessment of all of the sewer system, which we were in the process of before the break happened. And I mean, there may be issues identified, and we have a number of issues that have already been identified that are in capital improvement plans to be fixed. A lot of things are on the warrant at town meeting for sewer to be fixed in the upcoming couple of years. We have a pretty significant capital improvement for the sewer system. So I would just say we're actively working on that, and we hope there won't be any other big issue. Now, this January 4th break, the section of the pipe of the force main that was broken has been removed, and it has been sent away for forensic testing to determine exactly what happened. The prevailing thought is that the combination of extremely cold temperatures and major flooding had an impact on the break, and that section has been replaced with, it's a different section now. It's fixed, is my point. But we will find out sometime soon what exactly happened.
Right. And now with these storms that we're getting, I mean...
Well, that's a whole other matter, and we're in the process of starting to develop a coastal resiliency plan, as many coastal communities are doing. We've even talked at recent Board of Selectmen strategic planning sessions about a sustainability office. At the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual conference in January, there was a workshop about coastal resiliency, climate change, things like that. And the prevailing thought at that workshop was cities and towns in coastal areas are going to need a sustainability coordinator or office to deal with all of this. It's not going away, and everybody's going to have to deal with it.
And the budget, I mean, we got to start thinking about a budget for
how to fund all this. I'm sure there's going to start being ideas about it soon. Anyway, we had we had this overview of the sewer situation. We also had an overview of the most recent storm from last weekend, and there was some town infrastructure damage in that storm, which we're going to have to deal with going forward. And I'm just going through the main items we did last night. So our big main thing was Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund. They have come into the board to seek the board's approval to seek permitting from the Conservation Commission for an expanded erosion control project. If the Board of Selectmen were to approve that, and the Board of Selectmen needs to approve it because a good amount of the land where they would want to do the expanded project is town-owned. So if the board said, yes, you can go to the Concom for the permitting, and the Concom approved the expanded project, they would still have to come back to the board for a license to actually do the project on town property. So if you know anything about this, you might know it's very controversial, and we had a lot of people here at our meeting about it, a lot of public comment, a lot of questions about things. Questions range from, and comments range from, is this an appropriate use of town land, to we needed to protect Baxter Road, to where's all the sand going to come from, how will it get there, will there be an impact on town roads by all these many trips of dump trucks full of sand,
But they've
lots
been
of
using,
stuff.
they've been doing the same
They
thing. They just want
have.
to expand it.
They
right?
want to
They want to go from
expand it.
1,000 feet to
About
4,000.
4,000-ish.
All right.
Yeah.
And how, has the 1,000-foot stretch, they've kept that up for the past 3 years, correct?
Yep.
So are
Just
they
about.
happy with the way that's working?
Well, I think that SBPF is happy with it. The Conservation Commission has an independent report as to the project. It's online if people want to review it. And the Concom has not yet had a public meeting to review the report, so they're in the process of scheduling that. Last night, the Natural Resources Coordinator said he expected that to happen before the end of this month. So the selectmen want to understand, before they take this up any further, how is the current project working? And
I haven't heard anything negative. In 3 years, I haven't heard anything I mean, they've obviously been feeding the thing with sand.
yes, I mean,
So they're gonna, so
there
has
are-
it ruined the roads? I mean, wouldn't we know that it's ruined the roads?
yeah,
already?
I don't know that we can say that it's ruined the roads, no.
Okay. And
so-
it's their money.
It's their money entirely.
And how many
Yep.
people use that beach down there? I never see anybody
I
down
never see
there.
anybody down there. Right. I don't think
So-
that's a heavily used
So
public
they're spending
beach.
all their
Can't
own
really
money to
get
try
there.
to save their properties that are, they pay taxes, those.
They do.
And we lose those houses, we lose that tax base.
Yeah,
right? We'd
that's
lose
come
that.
up in the past. Yeah.
And, we're gonna have issues like this all over the island. I
Yes.
mean, this is just the beginning. So if they're
yeah.
spending their own money on this, issue that's gonna come up
Yeah.
in the future, can't we learn from this with their own money? This is my own opinion, Libby. I know you can't get involved, but it doesn't seem like it's that terrible unless there's some erosion happening way down that's really hurting somebody else.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it's controversial. There are very strong opinions on both sides. And there's probably people who sort of say, I'm neutral, don't care one
Yeah,
way or
I
the other.
think most people think
There's an issue with Baxter Road, though, and its stability long-term. We have an alternative access plan, which actually I'm having a meeting in a couple of weeks to revive that plan and make sure we're all, staff is up to date and current with it. But in the meantime, our coastal resiliency planning is likely to identify different areas around the island that are priorities to address with some sort of coastal resiliency measures.
Right.
And this is clearly going to be one of the items at the top of the list, if not the very top of the list. So more discussion is going to happen on this. It wasn't specifically scheduled last night because we're waiting for this Concom review. New liquor license coming. Sort of a replacement liquor license. AK Diamonds has gone out of business, and there's a new business in that restaurant. It's going to be called the Salt Box. And we met the people who are going to be running it,
Nice.
and so that sounded good.
Sounded like a family kind of place.
Oh, yes.
With the
And
children's menu and.
that catering to
great.
families. Now, as the attorney representing the people said, we've heard this before about family restaurants
Oh, yeah.
that don't really remain family restaurants for very long.
I see.
But the representation was that it's been a family place for
It was.
quite a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will definitely continue.
Definitely.
And they seem like it would. The board also worked on some of its comments to town meeting warrant articles. So don't forget, town meeting starts Tuesday, April 3rd, 6 p.m., high school. The warrant will be available online with Finance Committee and Planning Board motions probably by sometime tomorrow, and it will be mailed out to voters prior to town meeting. So right now, we are in the process of doing all the final formatting, the spell checking, all that fixing up of the document to send it to the printer, and then once it's printed, it'll get sent to the mail place and get out to the voters. And the board had a couple of comments on some of the warrant articles, not very many. FinCom's finished up, Planning Board's finished up, so we're on to town meeting. We're in the final stretch of getting ready for town meeting. Next week at the board meeting, We don't have our agenda completely finalized yet, but there's a couple of things that people might be interested in. Remain has been working with some town staff and others to discuss and come up with some options and proposals for long-term in-town bike path. So we have part of the in-town bike path done from the end of Washington Street Extension back behind Consu through the old railroad bed over to Goose Pond Lane, where it hooks up with Orange Street. And there are some discussions about extending the path from, on Washington Street, from about Candle Street, sort of where the substation is-ish, out to the Rotary. And there are some, there's some different options for that. Do it on Orange Street somehow, that way, or there's another option that's starting to be surfaced more and more about maybe doing it along the coastline. And there are certainly communities that have paths like that along their coastline to avoid, well, I don't know why they do, but it's scenic for one thing. And in our case, we certainly want to avoid the traffic situation on the streets that lead out to the Rotary. So we're going to be hearing from them. And
would that be a boardwalk of some sort?
Well, maybe, Gino, but you'd want to be able to have bikes on it.
Yeah.
And be wide enough for pedestrians and bikes and strollers and all that kind of thing. It sounds really like it could be really cool.
I know.
It's a big project, though, and it would take a while. But if we get going on it now,
beautiful.
So there's that discussion, and there's also some short-term plans, mostly sort of like street marking things, share the lane, sharrows, we call them apparently, so that people in vehicles and bikes are more aware of each other.
I see a point where the size of our vehicles has got to
Oh my
shrink.
gosh, I know.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to have these giant trucks and
well,
cars.
especially on, our
SUVs.
narrow streets were not made for gigantic vehicles, let's face
I
it.
spent 2 months in Asia. You should see these tiny
They're
little
I know.
cars.
I know.
And SUVs, tiny SUVs.
Yeah,
They're
people,
great,
Gino, this is America.
Yeah.
People like giant cars.
Yeah, they sure do.
I don't know what to tell you about that,
Yeah.
but we have had some board discussion lately about, that's a real, almost a cultural change here and a mindset change, that you don't need a giant car like that, but you have to provide alternatives for people. Transportation, public transportation for one thing, or whatever.
yeah.
There's lots of stuff that would have to be worked in. Anyway, this particular discussion is about this in-town bike path. So if you're interested, tune in or come to the meeting about that. National Grid is also coming in, and they're giving a presentation on what's called an island-ready electricity initiative. And our energy coordinator's been working with them on this presentation. They've been scheduled a couple of times now, but haven't been able to get over because of the weather. So they are going to come and talk about that. And right now, that's what's happening.
Okay.
What else are you hearing? I realize we're in the midst of another something
one.
of a storm.
Did I hear there's another one?
Oh, Gino, I don't know.
I heard
I'm
there's
not even looking at the
Okay,
weather anymore.
I don't want to say
I
that.
can't even deal with it.
Okay. One
And
after the other.
I don't know if you want to turn the camera later, but out the window here, we
right.
have the construction of the fire station going on, right? We are in the public safety building this morning. We're normally down at the town building, but I got meetings out here till like 1 o'clock today. So we are doing this here, and you can check out what the
When is that
progress
supposed to
over
be
here.
finished?
That ought to be finished by about a year from now.
Yep.
Roughly a year from now. It's about an 18-month project. It started a month and a half ago-ish.
Right. Yeah.
Spring-ish, maybe, of 2019. Yeah. So we'll have, we didn't really do a groundbreaking for this because we really already did a groundbreaking when we broke ground for this building because it was meant to be a combined facility to begin with. So we'll do some kind of an opening for fire when it's all set.
You mentioned something about a field trip that we should do.
Oh, yes. So on the town meeting and then the subsequent election, which is on
The election.
April 10th, we have several debt exclusions. Debt exclusions are questions to the voters of increasing their taxes, for a specific period of time in order to pay for a large capital project. We have 5 or 6, I don't even remember off the top of my head, of these larger items. So for example, we have Improvements to the Old South Road corridor area, that's around 14 million. We have,
What does that mean?
it means things like a roundabout at Old South and Fairgrounds, improvements to the Milestone Rotary, possibly a roundabout down at around Airport Road and Old South. We've talked a bit about one at, although this wouldn't really be in the Old South Road corridor, so that's separate. I was going to say South Shore Road and Surfside, but that's later. And perhaps some turning lanes, things like that.
We would go and you and I would, or who would?
Yes, so I'm thinking you and I, or we'll figure out who else can meet us somewhere.
Yep.
We've done, Gino and I have done this before, where we do a little bit of a field trip to sort of show people what we're talking about.
Right.
We've got a Marine Department building renovation. We've got, what else? A sidewalk improvement on Sparks Ave, that Old South Road stuff. There's something huge that I'm missing. We got some stormwater improvements, and maybe we have DPW garage design funding.
So this.
I feel like there's something else big that's just out of my mind right now.
So how would this all work? So you and I do the field trip. We show everybody what
What we're talking about, what we're proposing.
and how much it might cost.
Yes.
And then when do people decide whether they want to do this?
So these questions will be warrant articles on the town meeting warrant, and debt exclusions.
This town meeting.
Debt exclusions require a ballot vote as well. So if they passed, so the ballot questions are already on the election warrant for April 10th, in addition to the elected offices and that stuff. And if they pass town meeting, they are approved if approved at the ballot. If they don't pass town meeting, it doesn't matter what you vote on the ballot, it's moot. So they have to pass town meeting, and then they have to pass the ballot.
Okay, so we need to get on this.
We need to get on it. So
All right.
after we're done here, we'll do some scheduling.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we're back at it, and Gino, I'm afraid to tell you this, but I'm going to be away next Thursday and Friday.
Ooh.
I know. So we may either have to do this after the meeting,
Right.
which we don't love to do because sometimes it's too late, like last night.
Right, it
But
went too long.
next week may not be quite as late.
Okay, so let's try to knock
Fingers
that out.
crossed. So we'll see if we can do that. All right. So anyway, thank you very much. See you next time.